Hello, and welcome to Literacy Matters. I'm your host, Dr. Cheryl Lundy Swift, and I'm super excited for you to learn from our wonderful guest, Katrina Erickson.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here, Cheryl. Excited to share my experiences with your audience. When we think about dysgraphia, it is a disorder that affects their motor skills. It can be fine motor, it can be visual motor, it can be their coordination. So it is a disorder of motor skills as they are attempting to write and do their handwriting. It's also a language-based or processing disorder. So when we think about the different aspects of dysgraphia, it can also be language-based in how they are encoding the information. They may be able to read the information, they may be able to take the information in, but how are they getting it back out? So if they struggle with the motor piece, that's definitely going to be a difficulty for them. But if they're struggling with the ability to pull that information back out and have the letter sounds associated with spelling patterns that they've learned in phonics so that they can read, there can be a breakdown in that process and how they get that back out onto the paper, out to the pencil. So that is a second area of the disorder, and breaking it down a little bit more. But it can also be in their working memory, being able to store and hang on to that information while they are struggling with the motor, while they are struggling with the language processes that are part of dysgraphia. So it's a very complex thing to try and explain. But if I was talking with a parent and they were like, how do I explain this to another family member or my best friend? They've been asking, how do I do it? I would simply say, my child has dysgraphia. And if you're not sure what that means, it means that they struggle with the process of handwriting, but it's more than just learning handwriting. It's how the body moves. It's how the brain processes that information. And all the language that comes in as we self-talk to ourselves and tell our hands what to write on paper, what we want it to do to get that out into written form. It can be how they organize the information, and it can be in getting those letter sounds back out onto the paper for spelling. So as easy as I can put it, that would be the simplest way I could break it down.
And you know what? As you said that, I could see like you being my best friend and you telling me that. And my next question might be, darn, Katrina, I used to think that your kid was really, really so bright.
Mm-hmm.
How would you respond? And you
And
would
he
say,
is, and it is not a reflection of their intelligence, their academic abilities. It is a struggle in getting the information back out. They're taking it in. They're taking it in like a absorbent sponge. It's getting it back out in
wow,
written form, right? They can tell us.
yeah.
They can tell us. They can show us. There are so many ways that we can get that information back out, but it's a difficulty in handwriting.
Wow, Katrina, that was powerful. And what's interesting about that is I wonder if their family members or even educators that think, well, will it be fixed by third grade if you identify it in first grade?
No. Can we support them and help them progress in their written work? Yes. But they're going to need continual supports. And as we provide those supports as well as the appropriate interventions, we're going to create more pathways for them to be able to grab that information and utilize it more automatically. And so that's important. The struggle or the difficulties are going to become easier over time. And your students are going to learn what they need to succeed. But it is, like we mentioned earlier, it's a brain-based disorder. So it is something that they will experience for quite some time, for the rest of their life, but it will get easier for them to manage and succeed.
So Katrina, when we think about students with disabilities and these accommodations, I have heard teachers say, well, they're not going to get these accommodations in the real world. Like, we need to make sure that they can write. They can't just communicate orally or always have a computer. What do you say to that?
I say no. What kind of accommodations do you use every day? I use them all the time. Your word processing program, whatever it is that you use on your computer,
Mm-hmm.
um, has spelling assistance. It has grammar, right? You may even have a little grammar type of app that helps you. And I'm sure that you use your computer. I use um, speech to text all the time when I am thinking about what I want to say or what I might want to write, as we're looking at professional development and workshops. I'll just open up the microphone on, Microsoft Word, whatever word processing that item that I'm using, and do speech to text and then go back and use it. So I use my phone all the time. If you are one of those speech to texters like I am, you're
Yeah.
using an accommodation right there. Now, it's not always going to get every word correct, and it doesn't for our students either. They have to learn how to go back and edit. But no, you can still use those accommodations. As a matter of fact, if they have the accommodations when they go on an IEP as they get into their senior years, when they're getting ready to go out for secondary education, if they're going to pursue that, they can still get those accommodations
They
in,
can.
in at the university level. So no, and we all use accommodations.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. Honestly, I would not have gotten through my doctorate if I did not have that speech to text when these hands or shoulders were aching from working all day and then also typing all night. I'm so happy that you mentioned that for sure, and really teaching children how to use them, how to really leverage them. And I love the idea that, again, it's not always going to get it right, which is why they still need to learn the skills, right? They need to learn how to spell those words. They really need to learn that sentences start with the capitals and so forth. So that is fantastic. Thank you for reminding us that while accommodations are important in classrooms, that we do use accommodations outside. And I'm also going to say this. I have had the privilege of supporting leaders who work for the National Disability Rights Network, for example. And many of them are deaf, many of them are blind. Some of them have movement issues, and they all had some kind of assistive technology, and they're out here fighting for the rights of others. So they're always using technology, and they're using it for good. So absolutely. So thank you for reminding us of that, and I appreciate your expertise. You've mentioned keyboarding quite a bit, and we obviously have a keyboarding program, Keyboarding Without Tears. But there are other keyboarding programs. I know I've used those keyboarding programs. What makes Keyboarding Without Tears the program of choice for a student with dysgraphia?
Our Keyboarding Without Tears program teaches finger key skills in ways that other programs don't. And it does it in a developmental way, because I'm going to go back to what is dysgraphia. It's a neurodevelopmental brain-based disorder, learning disability. And so we need to tackle their needs the same way that they are experiencing them. So your typical typing programs or keyboarding programs where it's just drilled practice of one and two letters together,
True.
maybe, the F and the R together, F and R, back and forth. That doesn't help a student with dysgraphia the way a developmentally based program like the one from Keyboarding Without Tears that we have does for our students with dysgraphia. It teaches them content that's rich, because remember, our students with pure dysgraphia, it's not an intellectual deficit. It is a deficit in other areas. So they need rich context. They need rich material. And what I love particularly about our program is it teaches that one hand, like the left hand or the right hand, needs to be on the keyboard while the other hand is typing, and then it will keep that hand in place, the opposite hand, while the right hand is typing. And then it will do both hands. So we're not hunting and pecking and reaching across the keyboard. Other programs, I could reach over with my right hand onto the F and the R and type them if I wanted to. That process
Right.
is not going to speed up written output for students that have dysgraphia.
Yeah, that's so true. Thank you for sharing that for sure. I appreciate that. So when you use the term it's developmentally appropriate, what does that actually mean?
It means that it breaks the skills down into easier to learn skills, right? We're thinking about what should a student be able to do at a particular age level and matching those skills, whether it's handwriting or whether it's keyboarding, to that age level. So what I love about keyboarding without tears is I can take a student who has not learned keyboarding and take them into an earlier age or stage or grade level of keyboarding. They'll never know that they're in an earlier age, and they're going to get those foundational skills that they need to build the skill of typing. And the same thing with handwriting. We do that in our Handwriting Without Tears curriculum. So we take it from the skills, break them down into manageable steps, but then match them to the developmental abilities of students at that particular age.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for that. That was for any families who were wondering, what does that exactly mean, right? So, Katrina, it has been so eye-opening for you to share with us what dysgraphia really is. It is not just a handwriting problem, right? So, as we wrap up, what is a message that you would like to share to empower families, educators, specialists, and even school leaders?
Well, thank you for that question because, as we've discussed, dysgraphia is not a reflection of a student's intelligence or their effort, really. It is a learning difference that affects their handwriting and their written expression. And so, as we develop that understanding, as we provide support for our students with dysgraphia, giving them the right strategies, we know that our students can really help to share their ideas and then succeed academically. So it's really a shift in our mindset. We want to recognize our students' potential. We want to provide them with access and just the right interventions. And then really celebrate that student's thinking, their own creativity, because our students with dysgraphia, they can and they will succeed if we equip them and their school support systems with the tools and the resources that those students particularly need.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. It has just been a pleasure, Katrina.